On today's episode of The Buffalo, we are learning a skill that I think is so quintessentially Albertan. It gets us into the great outdoors and it teaches us self reliance while escaping some of Justin Trudeau's control freak tendencies. We are visiting Wild Archery Pro Shop in Lanes to learn about archery and bow hunting. Sheila Gunn Reid for Rebel News, and you're watching another episode of The Buffalo. Today I am at Wild Archery Pro Shop in Lanes here in Edmonton, Alberta, to show you a little bit of what it would take for you to become a bow hunter just like me. You see, Justin Trudeau has a war on the lawful firearms owning community. That includes me.
Or whether it's our most recent initiative on on freezing the market for firearms, which will start moving us in the right direction over the medium and long term.
But he hasn't quite started the war on archery, although I'd hate to give him any ideas. But I get a lot of questions about how does one get into bow hunting? What does it require? What's the initial cost to get involved? I know that as the price of food is rising at the grocery store, especially meat, there seems to be a war on retail meat. And while there's a constant push from the World Economic Forum for you to eat bugs because they've made meat too expensive, I would like to teach you a little bit about how you can maybe sustain your family with organic meat that you can hunt here in Alberta. Let's go talk to my friend Justin, who owns the shop here, Wild Archery Pro Shop in Lanes. Some of you may remember Justin as a prominent lockdown resistor. He ended up on the wrong side of Edmonton's bylaw officers after he refused to make the people at his archery lanes wear masks because it's dangerous.
Okay. So by you coming in here and doing this, you're shutting me down. I'm going to lose.
Shutting you down.
You are.
Just
You are.
giving you some
Because this is 80% of my business right now is the lanes.
Okay.
Okay. Because so if you're shutting this down, you're shutting me down.
And he also said that he would never ask people their vaccination status before they used the lanes here. So he ended up as a client of Fight the Fines at fightthefines.com, where through your generous crowdfunding donations to offset his legal fees, he had his lockdown tickets thrown out. So let's go in, let's meet Justin, and let's ask him all about archery. Let's go. Tell us about your facility here and the services that you provide.
Well, this is Wild Archery. We've got about 4,500 square feet of lane space and shop space as well.
And freedom.
And freedom. Lots of freedom. Not enough, but lots of it. And yeah, we do all sorts of service work. We do crossbows, we do compound bows, recurves, arrows, building strings, everything that has to do with bows and archery.
So you use a lot of words there that I think people who are new to archery might not know. So why don't you walk us through the shop a little bit and show us the different kinds of bows and what people might use them for.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll just follow you.
Yeah, sure. The compound bows here, they have, you can tell the compound bow, they've got the wheels and the multiple strings, cables, that sort of thing. That's what most people are going to be using for hunting. They're adjustable. The draw weight is adjustable depending on who's going to be shooting it. We can set something up for pretty much everybody. The draw lengths are adjustable as well, and the draw length is how far you pull it back, and the draw weight is how heavy it is to pull it back.
Tell us what this would set us back to get into one of these bows with some arrows.
As a general rule, you can kind of bank on that $900 to $1,300 for everything. That's going to be your bow, your arrows, your release, case, broadheads, everything like that. And then it's really up to you to practice. And I kind of recommend with a compound bow, 3 to 6 months of good practice before going out and hunting. With any of the traditional stuff, the longbows, recurves, 3 to 6 years. You know, so there's a little bit of a learning curve there. Some people pick it up right away and they're absolutely amazing. Other people, it can be a years kind of thing to practice. So, but practice is your friend.
It's not like a firearm where you can rely on the firearm to do a lot of the work. This is your body doing it.
Yeah, exactly. With firearms, you know, I know lots of guys that shoot 5 times a year. They shoot 5 bullets. 6th bullet is for their animal, and they're done.
Yeah.
With
smoking and drinking the rest of the time.
Exactly. With compound bows and bows in general, it's a skill that does degrade. So if you don't keep up on your practice, it will deteriorate.
It's true. That first arrow of spring is the worst.
Yeah. That's why we've got indoor facilities. You shoot all winter here, and in the summer we have air conditioning. These are the more traditional bows. So these are we've got a horse bow and we've got some recurves. Horse bows, like it sounds, were kind of designed to be used from horseback, but you don't need a horse to shoot them. It just makes you look cool. And then the recurves, that's if people are going to be hunting with a traditional bow, recurves is mostly what they're going to be hunting with. Now, I tend to recommend people start off because we do rent as well. We rent bows and lane time.
It's a big investment if you don't know what you're going to shoot.
Exactly. So I recommend that people, when they're first times, to come in, rent a bow half a dozen times, and see if they like it. If they don't like it, they're not out anything except, they've had a good time. Right. But to start off with, I tend to recommend recurves. They're much, much harder to get good at, but they're certainly much easier to use.
I'm terrible at it.
Most people are.
Now, what is a recurve going to set us back?
A recurve, all in, $300 to $400.
Oh, well, I could afford to get better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the nice thing about a recurve as well is anything that you may need to do in the field, you can do. So if you need to put on a new string, you snag your string on a branch or a broadhead, a knife, whatever, it breaks, you can put on a new string and keep going. If you're really, up on the bushcraft kind of thing, you can make a string for it out of things that you find in the bush. I mean, they did that for thousands of years. With a compound bow, no, you need special tools, you need special equipment.
We need to come see Justin.
Yeah, you need to come. That's why I exist. With the recurves, a lot of people that are getting into, especially the survival aspect, the prepper aspect, that's what they're going with because they're so much easier to use and maintain.
The Alberta Prosperity Project is a massive, nonpartisan movement of freedom-loving Albertans working to create a more free and more prosperous Alberta. To learn more about the Alberta Prosperity Project and to find out how you can get involved, please visit albertaprosperityproject.com.
Arrows have what's called a spine. They have a dynamic spine and a static spine, and that's how stiff they are. So with a dynamic spine, it's how much they flex when you shoot the bow. That's the important one. The static spine is just how much they bend when they're just there. Because if you have too soft of an arrow, which it flexes too much, it can blow up in the bow. And your hand tends to be in front of that arrow when it's blowing up. I've seen it firsthand. Yeah. It's not fun. So you want to make sure that it's got the proper amount of flex. It's called an archer's paradox, which is how much it flexes coming out of the bow. And if it doesn't have enough, then it just kind of flies like you're throwing a piece of rebar. Right. And if it's got too much, it blows up. It's like throwing a wet spaghetti noodle. The broadheads essentially are a razor blade on the front of your arrow. They're a point with razor blades attached. This is what you need to use. You need to have minimum 7/8 of an inch broadhead in order to hunt with, because you want to hunt and be ethical about it. You don't want that animal to suffer. And hunting is about the most ethical and humane way to get your meat. They're free range, organic.
Lived a good life.
And I mean, what more could you ask for? It's GMO free.
So I'm told. Now, releases.
Releases, yep. Basically, the release is what you're going to use to trigger the bow, and they're used with compound bows pretty much exclusively. So we've got a few here. Basically, it goes around your wrist, it's on a strap, and you pull the trigger to shoot it. So and
those are all customized to the length of your wrist.
Exactly, your fingers, all of that kind of fun stuff. So Ladies generally will have a smaller release, men a little bit bigger release. If you're Shaquille O'Neal, then you're going to have a huge release. So, but they do make things a much more consistent and much more accurate as far as your shooting goes, because they take more of the human equation out of it.
Right. You know, while the glue dries, why don't you tell us about the impact the pandemic had on business here?
It was pretty rough. I mean, obviously, as everybody knows, I stayed open the entire time, but the people weren't coming in.
They just assumed you were closed.
Yeah, a lot of people just assumed that I was closed. I didn't know what I should do. I think I closed one day when everything else shut down, and then I was like, no, this isn't me. I have a family to feed, and I'm just not gonna take this. And so I stayed open. But yeah, I mean, there was many days in a row where I was the only one ever in here. Sometimes, you know, we'd get 1 or 2 people coming in on a Saturday, and before we'd have full lanes and people in here on Saturdays as well. So it was really a struggle for months. And then people started to realize that I was still open, and yeah, then people were starting to come back in, not as many as before, and we still don't have, you know, the same amount of people coming in. A lot of the fact that Yellowhead is an absolute nightmare. So it's getting better, but it's not getting better quick enough. And with the way that everything's going, I don't know if we'll ever be back to where we were.
Justin, before we go, how do people find you? Because you, I think, are one of the best in the biz. You walked me through everything that I'm doing wrong and adjusted my draw weight because I'm struggling.
Yeah. Well, I want to see people comfortable and have fun. You know, ultimately, that's kind of the end goal. The address is 14805 Yellowhead Trail. Look for all the construction, because that's where we're at. You can find me online at wildarchery.ca for our website, Wild Archery on Facebook, and it's WYLD. Everybody gets that wrong. And our phone number is 587-524-3838.
Well, there you have it. If you want to learn a new hobby, learn a new sport, take up a skill that allows you to be a little less reliant on the government, maybe take care of your family and get access to the great outdoors, but also some organic, free-range meat in a time when everybody's trying to feed you crickets. Why not consider archery? Why not consider bow hunting? And why not consider learning the sport from a good, freedom-minded friend of mine, Justin at Wild Archery? I want to thank our friends at Alberta Prosperity Project for partnering with us on this video. And I want to thank Justin for adjusting my draw length and my draw weight as I struggle with a shoulder injury. For Rebel News, this has been The Buffalo. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. For more content just like this that celebrates the Western way of life and our, dare I say, distinct culture, please visit thebuffalo.ca.